Okay, I'm recording. Oh my god. I was looking for my, there we go. This is where I am, living in my car. I got RBG right here. I was just channeling, but, and having a communication. But I am, yeah. I just was like, why don't I pull the video camera out? Because I just looked here for my car is such a wreck because it was a little messy even before I, knew that I would have to throw all my shit in here and be living in it. But I smoked a little puff of medicine from the woman I just met this morning. Sometimes it's just easier for me to not have to write it or whatever it and just record it, and because the thing of all of this is, unless you've experienced me living with me, which my friends, long-term friends, well, my adult friends really, because people know me and love me from way back when, before I started channeling. I'm moving around, especially at 5'9" long, and most of it leg, and then a crushed pelvis and yada yada yada, in a 2001 Honda filled with all my clothes and my kitty, meow meow, who's handling this like a champ. It's not easy, so if you hear some grunting, my daughter has misophonia, so luckily she is not here to hear me grunt, because I was very whatever to hear that for me, my primary thing that bothers her misophonia is my oohing and grunting and eyeing, so and that's just in the normal course of life, not including being in the car. But see, even that, like, there's so much going on right now. I think I might be the only person on earth right now who could deal with it, and that is not coming out of ego. If you think it is, well, you can just go on and fuck yourself. But I've learned that I have to kind of assert my power, my saying that, like, just getting through the fucking, because it takes a lot of words and energy to explain, oopsie, that's upside down. Explain this situation, because it's so insane. And my whole life has kind of been like one, thing after another. My family, marijuana mama, Granny Pamela Snow White, my mom, and that was like, stuff was happening before, it's always been happening. They lost everything that they had worked for, over about an ounce of pot that is medicine. And I just smoked some of that good medicine with Candace. Nope, not Candace. Melissa. Candace doesn't smoke. She is very, like, nope. Just takes her little medicine, and but yeah, this story is so crazy. It's like, I really need help telling it, man. Fuck. What I really need, because I'm good at telling it face to face, is super easy, but when I'm not in the middle of a crisis, and that's the thing that I was just talking, because both Candace and Melissa are disabled, lacking the skill set that I have. And Melissa, who I just was meant to meet to help, and also like, she's, bless her heart, is like within 5 minutes before she knew that I could help her in any way, just that, didn't know that I was in the car down the street, but was like, oh, the minute she did was like, oh, you guys should just pull in and park right here, and I was like, Candace is like, no, it's okay. And I loved that Candace, that was her first reaction was, and whether it be because she's learning to receive, and like, that's the thing with me is like, I am a fucking miracle and a miracle worker and whatever, and but it's only really been since my, awakening, enlightenment, whatever the hell you want to call it. Like, people don't, it like, even still, even, my ex, it's like, it's too good to be true. I am even that, because, like, I work for the PTB, for God, the universe, whatever, and like, my jokes and stuff are like, oh, haha, I get paid the big bucks, but this is what those big bucks are. I'm like unexpectedly living in my car with like almost zero notice, and I had secured housing, which is a secret, but short-term housing, but then again I didn't, because I didn't show up, because my phone was doing weird shit when I went to my storage, and I was going to go to my intake appointment after storage, but Candace was out here. There's this beautiful crow out here. Oh yeah, I can show you guys. Normally I'm like, I'm in my room, I don't have anything to show you. And that was one thing I was like, well, if I do end up like whatever, oh, he's coming to eat that watermelon. I don't want to tell Candace across the street, but she's real tuned into animals. She's named both of these crows, which I always used to hear. My room is right there. I can't zoom this because this isn't a video. I'm using my app that I do for screen recording, but I was right there next to, if you have good eyesight, the fire alarm right there. I was in 120, and I had RBG and Spider-Man, which he is somewhere in here. Oh, I think I might have thrown him in the trunk in my last night's improvement session, which was taking this off. I actually got tools to, because I'm learning how to work on this car. But see how I'm all jumping all over the place? That is part because I'm in the middle of this crisis. When ultimately I continue to keep plugging along at my work, which is, before I moved to Kauai and all of that, I got my dream job working in social services, which was basically, oh, I'm getting a phone call. I'm going to pause this. Okay, woo! Oh, there it is. And they played this at the show. Oh my God. My life, holy shit. You guys, whenever this gets out and gets to you, like, oh. It's a trip. I've been through the ringer, and just on the phone with my ex, who through no fault of her own, although we're all responsible for our choices, like, people have had their hand in, as they do, we're all connected, and just do no harm is that's number one, and like, people are gonna fuck you over, and whatever, like my situation is people don't believe. They're like, it's too good to be true, yada yada. And I get it. And you know, even Turtle, who, you know, I was with for almost 20 years and saw how miracles work around me and miracles that I work, and they're weird as fuck. They're me being able to, when Kuan Yin told me as a teenager, through my mom, when my mom was still alive, channeling, that I would go to Hawaii, and I would know when, and I would know why, and that was it. Like, and for the next, let's see, that would be about 20 years. I was like, okay, what's up with that? Come on, like, give me the next piece of the puzzle. And it's like, no. And like most people, they get over response from the universe and signs and synchronicities. And the minute you tune into it and start, like, you know, working with God, whatever you call it, it's all energy, it's all love, it's all the same source. And but for me, as a, you know, in training on the higher level, which I thought was funny, I was like, oh, I'm in HR, human relations, and there's inside jokes that happen constantly in my life, and, you know, I equate it to the Divine Comedy, and for me, it's like comedy of errors, like, oh, well, you think you're being helped here, and actually you're there to help someone else, and whatever. But like, because she's about to fly and go see a friend of ours, her friend and former co-worker and whatnot, Laura, who's just awesome, and I fucking love her, and I'm so happy. And Laura, you're gonna hear this one day and, you know, be like, oh, that's so sweet. But just even without saying a word, she's been there. And she's flying to Arizona from Washington, or I guess Oregon, same but different, for 4 days to just do nothing, and for Turtle to learn how to have no expectations and no plans to go on a hike and no blah 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 blah. But the thing was that I started to talk about was she doesn't have a real ID, and it's like, you know, she's the one that, because she was raised that way, to stress out and whatever ahead of time before anything went wrong, thereby drawing that energy and that experience to her instead of being in flow. And like me, you know, being told by an ancient Chinese or Japanese or whatever, Kuan Yin has, you know, she's everywhere. She's the Asian version of Mary, etc. But I grew up with her, you know. She's on my arm. She's, you know, my Sifu, telling me, Hawaii, you'll know when, you'll know why. I'm like, okay, come on, coach, like, give me a little more than that. But it turned out that I did know when, and I did know why-ish. You know, the why keeps unfolding like a lotus flower, you know, an onion. Everything is so layered. And I'm just speaking freely because those of you who know without the effort of me explaining what channeling is and who Kuan Yin is and what all of this, because it looks like I'm in the middle of a shitstorm, and, you know, I sound crazy on paper. That was one working title for my memoirs. The Stranger Than Fiction was another. My original one, which has kind of come back around, is My Journey Home, with an Om in the home, which was a poem I wrote when I was like 17 or something, having grown up in, you know, a woo-woo-y, channel-y, ascended master's household, not really knowing that I was going to be, that it was job training or job already in progress, that because I thought I was going to maybe be an artist or a doctor. It was something always between healing and creativity. And it turns out that, you know, I work in HR for the universe, and that's daunting for me. It's like, maybe I am crazy, because even though, like, you know, now I have tattoos of Kuan Yin, where, you know, before, people who didn't have, you know, Kuan Yin statues in their luxury gardens, who thought they actually, I thought that was the Buddha, but it's like, no, that's Kuan Yin, and the female Buddha. Like, that's how I've been talking about all this shit for decades and whatnot, but now it's in the mainstream. But the thing is I don't fit the mainstream mold, because, you know, I was at that level of, you know, awareness and vernacular and terminology, words, manifestation, co-creation, you know, all of that as a teenager in the 80s. So I'm just like, by the time The Secret came out, I like was already living The Secret without having read The Secret, and, you know, and I've been real slow to kind of give myself any props openly, but I'm finding as the world is more and more fucked up as quickly, like, I don't have time to baby everybody, and it ends up just taxing me so much that, you know, my work becomes incredibly strenuous and whatnot, because, you know, keep in mind, I have been run over by a truck. I just was telling Candace, and she was just in silence when I told her the story of what actually happened, that, like, I was rear-ended by a pickup truck driven by a drunk driver who was in the same bar that I was in earlier, and, you know, and I don't know him. I still don't know what his face looks like, but with a human wrapped up in my arms and legs as much as I possibly wrap and protect her, and then hear a booming voice that for a while I thought was Kuan Yin just getting rowdy, but turns out it was Archangel Michael. And I was told, you know, I left that part out of the story with Candace, but you guys are here for that purpose if you're here. So it was like, do not get up, like, booming. And I was like, heard, you know, if you work in the restaurant, you're like, heard, you know, 86, the tuna tartare, you know, corner, all of that stuff, because that's what I was doing, you know, for pay when I did get run over. I was working in, you know, hospitality. But so I heard, you know, don't get up, which is obviously counterintuitive when you hear a truck is coming, like, ah. But for me, like, everything was in slow-mo at that time. Like, when the Matrix came out, I'm like, yep, been there, done that. The bullet, you know, all that stuff. But yeah, my story is, it's a big one. But I was telling Candace, you know, so I got hit in the rear. I'm basically, like, on hands and knees with a tiny little human that I loved and just met and, like, fell in love with, and wrapped up in my arms, and we got shoved under the truck. And I'm like, truck, I'm looking at Candace's car across the street where I was telling her the story, dragged down to the end of the block, and then spit out of the truck. And because she was like, oh, watch your feet, because I'm wearing my slides, and she's like, I don't want to run over your toes. I'm like, oh, that already happened. And she's like, what? You know, because I've only told her, I don't tell people about my woes and my whatevers, because it's just like, I'm not trying to be that. I don't want to be a victim, because I'm not a victim. I'm 100% like, this has all happened for the exact reasons, everything. But it's a work in progress, and that it's tricky learning. And like, I know anybody who's listening to this hasn't like tuned out or tuned in so they can write some dumb comment about, like, you know, demons or crazy or whatever. It's like, if you're dialed in, I know that you want to, like, do this the right way, these lives. It's the reason we're here. You know, some people call it Earth School, the 5D, the whatever, and the words don't matter as long as they're true. And that's what you're going to get here. And it's going to be, I don't know what it's going to be, because I just do it, and as long as it's authentic and, you know, but that it's working energy on this level is, whew, it's kind of a big deal. And I've been through, you know, because people, if they don't know that I've been run over and my pelvis was crushed and came out my leg, and the end of that story is that little E, who was wrapped up in my arms, I don't want to use people's names that I haven't gotten permission for, which is kind of a tricky thing, but like if they pop out and I know they're going to be fine with it, and I'm sure she would be, because those are the kind of people that if I fall in love with somebody, you know, they're on this path. If I'm friends with anybody, you know, if they're still in my life, even if they're not, which is only a few people, and that's the nature of getting older and moving and having kids and jobs and whatever. But I know that the people that I would sit and drink beers with, you know, in 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade, and so on, I could, you know, have these conversations. But it's tricky for me, you know, like I don't know you, because I'm assuming this is going to go up on YouTube or whatever. And I don't know, it's just tricky. I'm like, well, how do I explain all of this? And it works best in person, in real time, and over time, because then it's like, you know, I was saying to Turtle, see, that's the funny thing. It's like that's her animal, is a turtle. And, you know, mine was a sloth, and something that I wrote earlier, which I could pull up, is, you know, the text that I was writing is that, like, well, gee, you know, because Kuan Yin's laughing in my ear about how great I'm doing, you know, and it's like, me, I'm always, like, doubting myself, you know, I deal with, I guess it would fall into imposter syndrome-ish, but, like, on a different level, because I don't worry about, you know, my YouTube following or my whatever, because I'm fine, you know, like I died, I got the plug pulled when I got run over in 95, and was like, hey, you know, volunteer mission, do you want to go back into your body? And, you know, because there will be people who will need your help, you know, most you haven't even met yet, and says this is the way I've always been, maybe because I'm a Gemini or I'm ancient, and like I knew enough to say yes without thinking, and then popped into my body when I was conscious and couldn't move my fingers and toes. Did a mental check, because, you know, had I been without my brain completely unharmed in any way other than temporary and trauma and whatnot, it would have been like, nope, I didn't mean that, pull me back. But when I couldn't move my fingers and toes, I was like, no, I did not agree to, you know, paralysis. And first I checked my mind, like, am I, like, in my body? Am I okay? Like, what's my social security number? Da-da-da-da. Okay, that's good. Next was like, okay, fingers and toes, because, you know, what you learn about paralysis from the movies or the whatevers is when you get in an accident like that, like, you're supposed to end up paralyzed, and, like, since this happened, it's like, that's a miracle. You shouldn't even be here right now. I'm like, oh, trust me, you have no idea. But I was like, by the time the paramedics were there, I was like, and it could have been in the hospital, or the ambulance or whatever, but it definitely, I was conscious on the street. On some level, I was attached to my body enough to, be aware of that, them cutting my pants off, and I kept saying, I can wiggle my fingers, I can wiggle my toes, and the paramedics are like, okay, like, good, or whatever. I don't remember what they responded, but clearly that being their job, we're like, oh, good, all right, like, check, we don't have to worry about that, and take our critical time, triaging me, because I was doing a internal self-check, but, yeah, so here I am, still, but, we got the little Popo rolling by. Yeah, Portland police, hello, how you doing, Poppy Po? But so, I found out that, there's RBG keeping, let me finish the Real ID thing, because I'm really trying to not be just, all over circuitous thinking and leaving things hanging and, saving videos and not uploading them, but I got on a plane in 2003. Nope, my dad. It was after my dad. My parents. It was 2002 and 2004. That's how I'm like, what year did I do that? And when did that happen? Whatever. It was the early 2000. No, well, maybe like 2005. Because we were together for 5 years. Anyway, it doesn't really matter, but I got on a flight to Kauai with no driver's license. All I had was like a bus ID, like public transit. Like, this is my disability bus card that goes along, my ID that goes along with my, you don't have to pay for the bus thing. And I had a little bit of marijuana medicine in my medicine pouch, and something else, and in my backpack, which I didn't even know, I had multiple little, like, pocket knife, like this here, because I, as an artist, I have X-Acto blade tools, and like tucked in a backpack and whatever. That may have been actually on the flight back to the mainland from Kauai. But, yeah, like, I wasn't allowed on that plane by law, but I was allowed on that plane by Mojo, and my whole thing was like, these are not the droids you are looking for. Like, at that point, I was 30, it was after, right after my, what most people would call, awakening, Kundalini or otherwise, but I was very new to that happening, even with having been, training for this spiritual journey and whatnot, my whole life, but consciously from age 12 on, like, I am still in training and a teacher as well. And I make little jokes about, student professor and, yada, yada, yada. But, and that was one of the other points that I was saying is, like, I know you guys are all like, okay, well, how do I do it? And, I don't discount anyone's books or whatever. Like, if it's true and authentic and it rings, because there's many ways, just like in any education, like, some people are visual learners. Some people are Christians only, but are not Bible-thumping, hate-filled, Leviticus-wielding fuckers. But they're actual Christians, and, but are like, well, I've been told my whole life that this is evil, and this is, the devil, and blah, 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 blah. And, I get all of the, like, scaries, like, this doesn't, because it sounds crazy. It sounds crazy that we have the power to create the exact dream lives that we want and that, God has promised. And, if not for the Nicene Council way back when, before I was, born a different time, the Bible wouldn't say those things. And that's the church and power structures interfering and telling people that they are the true middleman between source and soul. And it's a lie. And it's for reasons that everything is fucked up in the way that it is. It happens on every level. And, I'm not okay with that. Neither is God or Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who's, sitting on my dashboard and is part of the PTB, her spirit. And we're like, Ruth, how could you do that to us? What? Trump is going to be able to put a fucking judge on the bench? And I don't know yet if the system has to fully break down and burn down to the ground to be started over. The story is unfolding, and all of those things are potential outcomes, but I don't choose that. Part of me, and when I was younger, I'm like, yeah, bring on the zombie apocalypse, that sounds like fun. I'm like, but no, honey, I'm old and tired, and let's not do it that way. Let's choose to learn about that. Wait a minute, we've all been duped, and here the American scheme, and it's ongoing, and it's so multifaceted and multi-layered, and making sense of it all is it's a pickle, it's a puzzle, it's a video game, it's all of those things. But if you're here, you know where you are. And I am whatever I say I am. And, that's up to you. That's where my job ends. Because I took one, certification class, something. And although I ended up knowing everything that class was teaching, the reason I took it was what I needed to get out of it was one line. And it was, never work harder for your clients than they are willing to work for themselves. And I was like, thank you. Because I've not been doing that, not knowing that, because I thought I had to solve everyone's problems as quickly as possible. And, it's like, wait a minute, and what happened was my body, the PTB in harmony, put me out, put me down, gave me COVID, gave me long COVID, and they're like, all right, if you're not going to do what you need to do, which is take care of yourself a little bit at least, and, then we're going to make it so you can't take care of anybody but yourself. And that's when I learned how to edit videos, and, so that's where I'm at, is I know all of this stuff, and I just want to keep sharing it. And I've always done it, face to face, and, everyone that has been along for the ride has, ended up in a better place. But it's like, we both have to work. You got to do your part, I'll do my part. And, there are more and more and more of us getting on board and figuring out, no, this isn't right. And, money is just money. It's it's an illusion, they said this is what it is, and we all said, okay, we need it, and it's the most important, and we need to go to work and get more and more and more of it. And, so then we then have money to pay somebody to take care of our kids, because that's really what we want to do, is just be parents and do what we love, and but then we're being told, well, you need this designer bag and this whatever, and it's just whew, that's all a diversion it's an illusion, it's a trick, it's a trap, but it's also not. If you're enjoying that, and that's as far, you're probably not here listening to this video, and that's fine, because, like, you know, you'll get here when you get here, and maybe you've already come here and gotten this memo, and then whoop, because we keep forgetting, you know, and then you got to learn the lesson again, that, like, wait a minute, you know, more stuff means more energy, more time that I have to deal with, and when it breaks down, I gotta pay for it if I don't know how, and, you know, but I'm over it, you know, I'm over it. I just want, like, you know, I want nice things. I want a nice house, you know, I'd love an indoor pool, and, you know, I don't know what I want, but I do know that it's all coming my way if that is indeed what I want and whatnot. But you know, I'm here for more than that, you know, and it's why I ended up in transitional housing, and one that didn't do what they were supposed to be doing, because had I known, I wouldn't be in this car right now. But again, it's supposed to happen, but that's the learning process, and discernment is key, you know, with me, with anybody, with any information, with your own thinking. It's like, well, let me look at that and see why I want that, or why I think that, or is that really what da-da-da-da-da? And for me, it's, you know, it's just practice. It's, you know, and once you get it, you're like, oh, yay. And you just, you know, try to remember what is true as you progress, and then the landscape changes again. And, you know, I was telling Candace something that I say in my, like, political writing and whatnot, is that America is a baby in its poopy, shitty diapers. Like, we're only, 500 years old? And, you know, like, slavery was 5 minutes ago. So, you know, this country was like an experiment, and, you know, we're fucking it up, guys. We're really fucking it up. We've been fucking it up from the start, because, you know, when we came over from England and Spain and everywhere else, and, you know, old Chris thought he was on his way to India to make a little coin for Isabella and whatever, and ended up in, you know, Cuba or whatever. We're babies, so, like, yeah, like, we're messing it up, and Trump is the ultimate, like, come on, really? Those of you who, again, you're probably not here, or at least not whenever the now is for you, you know, yeah, it was kind of funny, and that was a really funny experiment, but those are the fringe of the, you know, Trump people. Like, well, let's just see what happens, you know. Let's light this firecracker and throw it in that gasoline, you know. Meanwhile, we had Obama, who was like, hey, kids, you know, there's food deserts, and eat better, and, you know, everybody knew that, like, hello, finally, you guys put a black man in the White House, and things improved. But the system that's been in place up until that point was like, yeah, no, we don't really want this to change and go in the direction that it's supposed to go, you know, where former slaves are finally in the highest office of power. Yeah, the good old boy network is not fond of that happening and scrambling, but fortunately they're a bunch of dumb fucking children, and you know, that's why we're here where we are now. But Ruth had to check out because that was part of the plan, and she'd been at it for a while, and she was tired and needed to peace out. But she sure as shit became a phenomenon That's why she's sitting on my dash right now, because like she's like, okay, I made my mark, like the pop culture mark, where she'd been in the trenches, you know, sitting on that panel with those boys. Little Jewish lady. I fucking love her, man. But now she's working from a different office, and she hasn't gone anywhere. So I'm getting all sensitive and emotional, because it's fun to be on the team and welcome, you know. And that's the whole thing that can take me a lot of words to spit out, that the universe, God, but really, you know, I say the PTB, it's everything. Like, I am part of the PTB. The angels are part of the PTB. The animals, the trees, the bees, you know, my bad knees are even part of the PTB, because we are all sparks of that source, and we're expanding. We are light and energy and love in expansion. And, you know, with duality, there's the flip side of that. It's a balance, because that's physics and quantum physics and all of that is, you know, it's the way that is the balance and change and cycles and all of that. It works because it works. And, you know, it's also a work in progress. And with that, I'm out. All right. Sorry the visuals were not super appealing. Ziggy, what do you think, Puss? I couldn't figure out how to get this thing apart last night, so I ended up putting it back in here upright. But, you know, had my best night last night, and I got a lot of shit to do, so I'm going to sign off for now. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to throw this right up on YouTube, and I don't have the time or the energy unless something, whatever, you know, maybe hashtag guess who's back, because it takes, I don't have anybody helping me that is actually in a body that does the things that I do, like video editing and da-da-da, and, you know, I'm a little control freaky and whatever about my creative. If it doesn't align perfectly with my creative vision, then it doesn't, you know. And I don't have money to pay anybody, because I'm not getting paid for any of this in, you know, dollars and whatever. I've got, you know, $900 a month that I get my trust fund from getting run over, and but I'm trying to build something here, and any way that you want to be a part of it and support it and whatever, I am fucking down. And I'm building, like I keep wanting to say, I'm building an army, but you know, I welcome you if you're part of the solution, and or if you are looking for a solution and you're here for that. But, you know, it's growing. All right, much love, so much love, and I'm out of here. So I'm gonna shut that down. Boop. And see this. This is my last logo. Put a temporary one in there. Shit happens. Now what? You know. Well, I got some answers if you're interested. All right. Much love. Ciao for now. Peace.